The best thing about the playoffs and the NBA Finals is that there's a lot of basketball, right? There's a lot of basketball to play, and I want us to keep that in mind as we review Game 1. The Boston Celtics came out. They handled business. This is the way you want to start a series in the NBA Finals, especially as the home team defending your home court. Boston played almost a perfect game, right? The first quarter, they come out, they score 37 points. Kristaps Porzingis comes off the bench, and he ignites the TD Garden, blocking shots, hitting three-point shots, mid-range shots that are right over people that are daring to try to contest him. I was super impressed with the start by Jason Tatum of just kind of allowing the game to come to him. And I think that was extremely impressive. And it opened up so much for not only himself, but mainly and importantly, everybody else that was around him. Because obviously, as we know, based off of all of the other series that we've seen, the Dallas Mavericks have come with this extreme gap defense. And a lot of the times when Jason Tatum was putting his head down and making his move to get to his spots or get to the basket, he was seeing three bodies at a time. And what that was allowing him to do was find the open slots or the open corners, or sometimes the hockey assist where he would give it to somebody on the wing or in that slot, and they would have the one more to the corner. And now Derek White, Drew Holiday, and all of those other guys are allowing themselves to get easy open looks, and they were converting. Like I said, 37 points in that first quarter. They were shooting a three-point shot at a 46% clip, 7 of 15, and they were getting some really, really good looks. I think Dallas should even be happy, or should have been happy, or felt lucky that the percentage wasn't higher. This could have been easily 10 out of 15 from three to start the first quarter, because they were generating some of the best looks that you could get. And again, a lot of this came off of Jason Tatum not pressing, not feeling like he had to force shots early to get himself involved or have a stamp on his game. And the biggest criticism that I have for Jason Tatum on tonight's game was just the turnovers. I felt like he was a little sloppy and loose with the basketball at times on defense. Even though they were up by a lot of points, there were certain times where he kind of felt indecisive on where he should be. There was a play directly where I think he was going to help or double on Luka in that second half, and he was kind of caught in between and ended up committing a foul. And he got stripped a lot. Which I think we can see cleaned up in Game 2, being a lot more aware of what the actual gap defense is going to look like versus reviewing it in film and seeing it in person. I think he could be a little bit more prepared, him and Jaylen Brown and a few of the other Celtic players. They were getting caught up by driving and putting their head down, which you want them to do. You want these guys to be aggressive and to not settle into contested shots and isolation basketball and beat the Dallas Mavericks in this rotating defense with the pass. You know, as long as everybody's being aggressive and moving that basketball so freely, it's constantly putting the Mavericks defense in a constant shift. And you're getting these extra pass looks. And a lot of those times when the Boston Celtics were willing to be those passers as a complete unit, they were generating great looks. And they were a prime example of turning a good shot into a great one. And it transitioned throughout the entire flow of this game. And it allowed everybody to really eat. For me, Dallas, on the other hand, it's a hard game to kind of dive into for them completely, because you want to credit, and we're going to credit, the Boston Celtics for coming out and playing a game complete on both sides of the floor, where offensively they flourished, defensively they flourished. They were able to exploit certain things, and they really took advantage. They responded when the Dallas Mavericks got going in that third quarter. We were able to see the Boston Celtics kind of quickly respond to that and not allow themselves to get defeated, because there was a certain point where they got that lead down to about 9, under double digits, where it's like, uh-oh, here come the Mavericks. Luka's hitting shots and whatnot. And the Boston Celtics were able to call a timeout, take a deep breath, and get back to business, which I was happy to see. That is a championship-type response. That is what great teams do. They've been a great team all season, so that wasn't a surprise to me at all. On the flip side, though, not to discredit the Celtics, but to really focus in on the Dallas Mavericks, as a Mavericks fan, if you're watching this video as a Mavericks coaching staff or somebody on on the bench, some of these shots that y'all missed, I think you have to be confident that you're going to make them in the next game. The thing for them is, will they be able to beat the Boston Celtics even when making these shots? Because I look at the stat sheet overall, and I can tell you right now, 6 of 19, 0 of 5 from 3 for Kyrie Irving for 12 points in 36 minutes. I wouldn't get used to that type of performance. There was a lot of wide open shots. PJ Washington went 0 of 3 from 3. I felt like every one of his looks were completely wide open. All my stat nerds, everybody that's looking to numbers, if you're familiar with NBA.com and you look over their shots, they have a little breakdown that tells you the closest defender. And they have shots that are like tightly guarded, close shot, open, wide open, extremely wide open. I hope I'm remembering right. A lot of these shots PJ Washington got what I think would be considered completely extremely wide open, where there wasn't a single defender even attempting to close out. And he missed those shots. We've seen him make those shots. We've seen him make even more difficult shots. So I think those shots at some point, whether it's in the next game or when y'all get back home, you'll probably see those shots fall. Kyrie Irving, he had a lot of shots going in and out. There were some shots that were completely flat for Luka Doncic, even in his game where he was still able to have 30 and 10. You know what I mean? For me, the one thing that's glaring, even with all of that going on, is the fact that they left 7 free throws at the line. 12 and 19. You can't leave that many points at the line against a Boston Celtics team. And then more importantly, they had 9 assists compared to the Boston Celtics 23. I think if you're playing, and I don't even want to call it isolation basketball, but if you're playing isolation basketball as the Dallas Mavericks, I think you're falling into the hands of the Celtics. And there were certain times throughout the middle part of this game where Boston got up on them early because they had the 37-point lead, and Dallas was trying to respond, and they were getting caught up in possessions where they were 1 and out. Luka Doncic come get a screen, step back 3 over somebody, doink, and Boston's going the other way. And all they doing is now bringing the ball up, getting into their shit, putting their head down, being aggressive, making a play, seeing bodies, kicking, extra pass, swing, and now you got Brown either catching in that corner and not settling, putting even more pressure on a rotating defense to generate an even better shot for Al Horford or somebody, or just completely getting to the line. Derek White a few times did it. Like, everybody was making sure that they were being aggressive and attacking the gaps with a purpose to generate a jump shot from the perimeter for a teammate. And then everybody else on the perimeter was aware that, hey, I have a good shot, but the one more is going to be there for us to have a great shot. And not only that, there were certain possessions, especially in that first half, but over the course of the entire game, where they would miss some of these shots and these great looks themselves, but they were allowing themselves to get second chance point. There was a possession where I think early on in this game, they got like 4 or 5 offensive rebounds. And to me, those are the type of things that the Dallas Mavericks are going to have to clean up. This is one of the first games throughout the entire playoffs where the presence of Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively just wasn't there. It just wasn't there. And we've talked highly about those dudes this entire run. The Dallas Mavericks are not where they are without those two dudes. And we just didn't really get that feel from them in this game. You got 1 offensive rebound from Lively, which is tough because you usually expect more. He had the 5 fouls. You had 3 offensive rebounds for Daniel Gafford and no defensive rebounds. And he was only able to play 14 minutes his damn self. And so then you go into some minutes with Maxi Kleber, who played 18 minutes, and I don't think he got a single rebound. No, he didn't get a single rebound tonight. They're going to need somebody to establish themselves in that front court one way or another. They're going to have to. You cannot allow a team like Boston Celtics to get second and third opportunities when they have such a dangerous offense where everybody is able to make shots. And when you give up offensive rebound, you're now playing scramble defense. It's more likely that you leave somebody open. You got 2 guys closing out on 1 guy, and we're seeing that they're willing and able and committed to beating you guys with the pass. The 23 assists, they are willing and able and committed to beating you with the pass. They just are. And on the defensive end, they're able to switch a lot. They came out. They had Jaylen Brown on Luka Doncic. They put Kristaps Porzingis on Derrick Jones Jr., Al Horford on Derrick Jones Jr. You have Derek White on PJ Washington, Drew Holiday on Kyrie, and then you have Jason Tatum on Daniel Gafford. So now when you're doing your pick and roll, they're able to switch, and they're very, very good on how they switch and how they communicate. with peel switching, or you'll see somebody have a mismatch for a split second and they'll rotate and you go there and you take it's just so much communication, and that's going to be something that the Dallas Mavericks are going to have to get accustomed to and find ways to manipulate, because they are so good and because they've been able to have success in every series that they played in these playoffs. I think they will find some ways to be effective, but ultimately this game for me really shows why I picked the Boston Celtics to win this series. I keep having to remind people, I'm a Knicks fan. I'm not a Boston guy at all. But when I'm here to do my job and I'm here to analyze what's in front of me and be, an analyst, it's hard for me to look at the Boston Celtics and tell you that the Mavericks are going to win this series. That was before this series. That's after game one. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same way at the end of the series. They just don't really, they're the better team. We can talk about how good Luka Doncic is. We could talk about how good Kyrie Irving is, how dangerous these guys are, how incredible their run has been, how they took care of business against the Minnesota Timberwolves. But ultimately, when you take away all of these extra non-important things that people are talking about from their own self, how they feel, what they want to see, you take all that, you move it to the side, and you just focus on the facts. The Boston Celtics are the better team. I love Luka. I think he's a phenomenal player. I think he's a guy that you should never count out. But this is one of those series where I think Luka Doncic can be phenomenal for the next 3 games or however many games, and we can still see the Boston Celtics pull this off. There was a point in the game where this team was almost up 30 points, if not up 30 points. They're that good. And again, this is a game where Tatum had 16 shots on 16 points. They don't need Tatum to have these crazy games. We've been saying it all playoffs. It's the media and these people that come up with all of these other things that don't matter that tell you what they would want to see and how they want to see Tatum have these crazy performances or whatnot. But we've been trying to tell y'all they don't need it. There's a world where they win this series and Jason Tatum does not have to have some crazy epic performances. Now, if he can and he does, it's going to be incredible. But there is a world where it's like, hey, Brown got 22. Porzingis gave you a dub. 15 from Derek White. 10 from Drew Holiday. Al Horford gave you a couple threes. Shot the ball at a 50% clip. I mean, Tatum gave you 16, 11, and 5. Only thing I can really complain about is the 6 turnovers. Not a fan of the turnovers he had. 6, way too many. Way too many. And I even was on Pick a Side and I talked about it with them. Hey, listen. We can talk about pick and roll defense. We could talk about how special Luka Doncic is. We've seen players have great series and still lose. I won't hold this against Luka. I won't hold this against the Mavericks. They had an incredible run. They lived up to every hype that I put on them coming into the playoffs, calling them one of the scariest teams coming into the playoffs. In March, saying that when we did our bracket video on numbers on the board, I was saying that the Dallas Mavericks very well, to me, could be a Cinderella team. They lived up to all of that. But the Boston Celtics are not who we think they are. They are who they've shown us to be the entire season, including the playoffs. And as a basketball fan, yeah, I'm going to root for this series to be a series. This is the stage. This is the NBA Finals. This is the last basketball we have of the regular season. I damn sure don't want to see another 3 games of 107 to 89. I'll tell you that right now. I damn sure hope that I don't have another game going into the fourth quarter and the Dallas Mavericks got 66 points. No, that's not what I want to see. Definitely want to see a series. Definitely want to see a fight. Definitely want to see some competition. But ultimately, it is hard for me, even more after watching this first game, to try to figure out a way where I can pick the Dallas Mavericks to win 4 out of 7 games against this team. And I'm just hoping that the series does become a series for me as a fan, but also for some of these people and analysts that I've seen around the basketball landscape who were picking the Mavericks. Because I think there is an extra conversation for us to have if the Mavericks, if the Celtics are able to continue to insert their dominance. Well, we're going to have conversations about analyzing the game as analysts and not really just saying things because they sound a certain way or because they're, against the grain and really doing what the job calls us to do, which is to analyze it. My boy Dale said something the other day when I was on Pick a Side too. And this will wrap it up. It was like it just feels like a lot of people who don't pick Boston, they don't like Boston. Or it's like they're going with some storyline, some narrative. And it's like, again, all of that is cool and it's fine and dandy on Twitter or at the barbershop. But as an analyst, when we have a job to analyze the game of basketball with all of the facts and all of the information and all of the numbers and all of the highlights and the film and all of these different things, the articles and write-ups, we have all of these things at our disposal as tools. It's like when you analyze it, is this game surprising? Is this result of game one surprising to anybody? But then that goes into the lose-lose situation that the media has created for Boston Celtics. People talk to me about this series, and it's like they didn't play anybody. But if they would have won 7 games with any of those teams they played in the first before the NBA Finals, they would have told me that they don't feel certain about them because they couldn't handle the Cavaliers in a dominant way. That's what they would have said. Oh, man, I can't take the Celtics serious. They won 6 games with the Pacers. That's what they would have told us. Right? So it's a lose-lose. They handle their business and you still don't take it serious. If they didn't handle their business in convincing fashion, you damn sure wouldn't have took it serious. If they lose this finals, it's the end of the world. If they win the finals, they were supposed to. Again, I'm not a Boston guy, y'all. I'm a New York Knicks fan. Celtics ain't really my wave. But one thing I don't do when it comes to my job and being an analyst, analyzing the facts of the game of basketball, I give credit where credit is due. The Boston Celtics have been the best team in the regular season, in the playoffs, offensively, defensively, collectively, individually. They've had performances. They cross off every box you would want in a dream world scenario for your team. But because we're in a narrative-based thing and it's less analyzing and more push for clicks, we have gotten jackass statements that there is still a chance for them to live up to. We will see. I think that the Boston Celtics are probably going to continue to play this way. As a fan, like I've said, I haven't hit it at all. I am rooting for the Mavericks because Kyrie Irving is my favorite player in the series. He's my favorite player. As much as I love to see KP have a night like he did tonight, Kyrie Irving is my favorite in this series. So I am rooting for them. But as an analyst who does this for a living professionally with all of the facts in front of me, how am I not picking the Boston Celtics to win this series? I am Pee Wee the Plug. This is the Pee Wee the Plug channel. Make sure you're locked in here all NBA Finals. We will have recap videos after every single game. I appreciate y'all. I will see y'all soon. I'm out. Peace.